Years ago, I worked for Washington State Parks as an interpreter specialist. Part of my job was giving educational programs to visitors about the natural and cultural history of the region. Every now and then, I would run a special presentation on one of the Northwest's most famous legends, Sasquatch. At first, I treated it like folklore, a fascinating story tied to the forests and mountains of the Pacific Northwest. But something interesting started happening after those talks. People began approaching me afterward, not to debate the legend, but to quietly tell me what they had seen. Some were hikers, others were hunters or campers. Many were reluctant to speak about it openly. They would wait until the crowd thinned out, then come over and lower their voices before describing encounters they had never told many people about. One story in particular stayed with me. A man told me about seeing what he described as a mountain giant while hiking the Pacific Crest Trail near Snoqualmie Pass in Washington state. According to him, it wasn't just a fleeting shadow or something glimpsed at a distance. He said the figure was enormous, far larger than any person, and moving along the ridgeline in a way that didn't match any animal he knew. He watched it for several seconds before it disappeared into the timber. But that wasn't the only story I heard. During that time, I also worked closely with U.S. Forest Service personnel stationed out of the Cle Elum area. These were experienced backcountry professionals, people who spent more time in the wilderness than most hikers ever would. And even among them, there were stories. They would sometimes talk about strange encounters in the mountains around Peat Lake and Waptis Pass, deep in the backcountry of Upper Kittitas County. A few of them mentioned seeing large human-like figures in remote areas, creatures they sometimes referred to as Sasquatch, and occasionally something even stranger. They described them as giants. The interesting thing was how seriously they treated the subject. These weren't campfire jokes or tall tales. When the topic came up, the tone would shift. Voices got quieter. One thing they told me stuck with me the most. When they worked patrols or backcountry duties in those areas, they never went alone. They always traveled in pairs, not because of bears, not because of cougars, but because of the strange encounters people had experienced in those mountains. Out in the deep backcountry of Upper Kittitas County, there were places where even seasoned forest personnel felt it was better not to be by yourself. Whatever was out there in those forests, they preferred to face it together.